welcome everyone who is with us either live on Facebook right now or watching this on YouTube or anywhere else you may be here. I'm watching my heart open. I have the blessing and the great privilege of introducing you to my brand new friend, um, Caverly Morgan. How did I do with the pronunciation of your name?
You did wonderfully. Thank you, Cindy.
Caverly is one of our presenters this weekend, the Many Paths One Self Conference. And there is a link, so right there underneath this Facebook Live, where you could go ahead and register to attend free if you want to hang out with us this weekend. And one of the great joys that I have before each one of these conferences is I get the pleasure of spending a few minutes with some of the presenters and getting to know them and giving all of us a chance to feel and open up to where these presenters are coming from. And I'm not even going to pretend that I have any other real agenda at this point. I am here with Caverly because my prayer is that you're feeling what I'm feeling right now, heart opening, and that heart opening will lead you to click the button and register and come and spend more time with Caverly, as well as the other 24 or so presenters that will be at this conference this weekend. I also told Caverly, in any second now, I'm going to hand this over. But first, typically at this point, I read the bio as presented on the website, and then hand things over. I went to Caverly's website a couple hours ago, and I felt a real subtle but very clear just shift in my energy. I thought I was open and relaxed and fairly quiet, just the next thing I wanted to do. So I didn't come in completely unaware of Caverly's work and how she shows up in the world. And within moments of just being on her homepage, seconds even, there was just this transmission and a relaxation and an opening into something even more peaceful, even more open, even more allowing. So, and that's just from hanging out on your website. So the words that I pulled from this website relative to how it informed me as to who you are and how you're showing up in the world are these: that Caverly is dedicated to actualizing possibility, serving love, and embodying truth. And with that, I would love to just hand things over for whatever you want to say into this moment before we see what's next. Thank you for being here.
Cindy, thank you so much. I'm really incredibly grateful to be here. And it's really touching to me to have you, and apologies if that's a little loud. Hopefully, is it too loud, Cindy, the background? Good. Okay, well, I'm saying hello to you all from Charlottesville, Virginia, and it's such a gorgeous day here that I chose to be outside, even though there's a busy street not too far away and some loud sirens. So here we are, beginning our time together with the embodiment of being with all that is. So beautiful leaves, beautiful light, and sirens, and emergencies, and all the things. But thank you for saying that you had an experience when you went to my website. I mentioned to you, I think that's the greatest website feedback that I've ever gotten, is that someone had an experience. And one of the reasons I'm so grateful for the opportunity for a Facebook Live connection is because you and I can do so much more by connecting in this way than me sending a little blurb about why people should come to this to this experience, right? So thanks for just giving both of us a chance to drop into this question of why are we even doing this?
So why are we doing this?
I knew you were going to ask that, Cindy. I knew it. I think that one of the reasons this is such a special gathering is because at its core, it honors that we each have a different doorway into truth that will resonate or does resonate for us. I studied for quite some time with a man named Walter McKitchen, who taught me everything I know about the energetic system. And he founded a center called the Center for Self-Teaching. And I just love this notion that we're listening for our way, that the answer for our way that's a response to our karmic makeup, right? The answer to our way is within. And so for some, that's going to be Zen. For some, that's going to be non-dual teachings. For some, that's going to be Tibetan Buddhism. For some, that's going to be Sufism. And I think that this kind of gathering leaves so much room for the way in which there's no one way to truth. There's simply love overflowing with itself in myriad form.
And the hair is standing up on my arms. Love overflowing. On your website, I learned that many of the paths you just mentioned really did inform who you are and how you show up for the world, including, did I remember this right? 12 years in a silent Zen monastery.
8 years. So, but it felt like a dozen. 8 years. Yeah.
As well as all the different faces of people from all around the world and their quotes were all on that first page, and just sitting with everyone from Rupert to Peace Pilgrim to Martin Luther King, etc. There was this sense of really recognizing that anyone with this desire to know love and to be truth and to embody truth will be informed and can't make a mistake, right? I think maybe that's part of what I saw embodied on your website, and I'm feeling in the presence with you, and everything that is bringing this conference this weekend together. So how wonderful is that?
It's so wonderful because what we're pointing to is the simplicity of our own being and accessing that in whatever way feels most nourishing, hopefully most joyful, perhaps in some cases challenging. So for example, part of my Zen training is learning to truly sit still in difficulty. I mean, that's an important part of it too, right? I always like to underline it's finding your own path doesn't mean it's all going to have bells and rainbows and unicorns. There might be a real sense of loss that arises as we shed what's not authentically ours. And that's all part of this beautiful journey to me.
So because it lit up for me, I was in a meeting a couple hours ago, and somebody said simple but not easy. And I actually brought that to light. And just because an emotion is intense, or the experience in the moment appears turbulent, that doesn't mean being with it has to be hard, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Language sort of fails us, doesn't it? I mean, it might feel hard, as you heard before this call, Cindy, my mother's in hospice at the moment. That's not an easy process. I can say that there are things about it that feel quite hard. But knowing that we inherently have the capacity to be with that, to show up in presence as presence, is a complete game changer.
It allows you to feel the pain in the moment without telling
Oh,
mind stories about it, right?
yes,
Or
to be with what is without, I agree, without the spin of conditioned stories and narratives that simply lead to suffering, or without that engaging that habit of seeking and resisting, even in the face of something that so much of us might say, I wish this weren't happening.
so can you speak to that for just a few minutes more, and the way it's coming up for me right now? And perhaps these aren't the best words, but the way they are based on this story here is the pointing as to what the difference is between experiencing grief and suffering.
Mm. In my experience, grief comes without storyline. It rises up and wraps itself around your neck and penetrates through your neck into the whole being. Suffering is connected to storylines that center an illusion of a self that is separate from life. So in my experience, there can be tremendous grief that isn't ego driven. It's not attached to the personality in any form. It's not maintaining a sense of separate self, but might include tears, wailing even, because it's a natural response to loss. We see it even in animals. When you see a calf parted, taken from its mother, you hear the cries of the mother cow. That's without storyline of, I hate the people that took that calf away, or it's a natural response to loss.
And my sense is that when we allow ourselves to be in whatever the experience is, then we have the ability to experience it fully, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, Before we talk about how you're showing up this weekend, as a mother and someone, well, as a mother anyway, I lit up on your nonprofit, this this activity of bringing mindfulness into high schools. Can you talk a little bit about that and how that's working and being received, and anything else you'd like to say about it? It lights up something in me.
Cindy, thank you. Yeah, for those interested, you could, while we're chatting about it, you could look at peaceinschools.org. And Peace in Schools is dedicated to transformative mindfulness education. And I like the word transformative in that sentence, because what's special about our organization is that we were the first 4-credit semester-long elective course in public high schools that's now in almost every public high school in Portland, Oregon. And so what makes it special, what allows for it to truly be a transformative course, is that we're with the same set of teens for over 75 hours. So that's a real immersion, not only in the tools that support being awake in the world, but in an environment that is nourishing and rich because it's an environment of care. And in our program, we speak about environment of care as representing confidentiality, acceptance, reverence, and empathy. So that combination allows for these transformative tools, or I like to talk about them as contemplative technologies, to take root and do their magic, if you will.
Is there any plans or vision to take it outside of Portland?
I'm so glad you asked. I promise I did not plant these questions, but I love the opportunity to share with folks that we are in the process of scaling right now. We have schools in California that we're in conversation with, and there's actually an entire strategic plan on the Peace in Schools website that supports an understanding of this research and development scaling model that we're building. So it's an exciting time for the organization. And, you know, with this community, I, of course, don't need to speak to the need during a time like this. I mean, I can't keep up with the school shootings. We were just talking to a major donor 2 days ago, and I wanted to be able to point to how our program may go into a school where there was an act of violence very recently that made national news. And I actually had to Google recent school shooting to find out what the most recent circumstance of violence was that involved guns in schools. I mean, that's unprecedented.
Fabulous. I'm glad that we just put it out there, and it's peaceinschools.org, right?
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. So the title of your talk this weekend reads, "The Heart of Who We Are, Realizing Freedom Together." Can you speak on that a little bit?
Sure, I can speak on that a lot. I just wrote a book about it. So yeah, a book by that title came out through Sounds True in November, very end of November of last year. And I've been in a state of delight about it, just sort of in the experience of watching it ripple into the world. I'm not a trained writer. I underline that often because maybe there's someone listening who's never written a book and has the story that I used to have that, well, I'm not a writer, I can't write a book, but the book is really simply my experience of what has been meaningful in supporting transformation, and specifically reminding ourselves and others of what's real and true. So every chapter has a tagline of return to presence, return to being, return to love, return to wholeness. Because of course, what's being implied is that we are what we most long for. And so the book takes it's somewhat of an arc from the progressive path to a more direct approach, but the entire book is in a cauldron of direct experience, at least in my intention. You know, folks will have to report back to me if that was their direct experience.
And there is a pointing that came up because just in these few minutes that we've been talking together, there has been conversation about the violence in the country, and it's in the world. And that can often create a lot of anger and fear in people. We've had a conversation about being present with our grief. And you just spoke about this ripple of joy or this ripple of delight. And my sense that I'd love for you to talk about the way I received all that is that ripple of peace or delight is here And these more intense experiences rise and fall as part of our being present with what is. Is that, I would love for you to clarify or help speak to that. I don't want to put words
No,
in your
Cindy,
teaching.
I love the way you're voicing it. I think it's authentic. You're speaking to your experience of what's constant and what's ever present. And while recognizing that these other matters are transitory, they have beginnings and endings. They're arising in a larger container of what's unchanging.
Which is, do you have words for that which is unchanging?
There is only this. Zen Master Bankei talked about it as the unborn mind. Pure consciousness itself. In my book, I talk about love with a capital L, not love that is a Hallmark love, not you've done something for me that I appreciate, so I love you, and but love that's foundational, love that has nothing to do with causes and conditions, love that has nothing to do with meeting societal standards. That love is unchanging, ever present, ever available, and not exhaustible.
So there's an experience being had right now. The mind was trying to put words to it. And the closest that it came, I think, was just sort of open and empty. So it's almost as if I was receiving what you were just sharing, and there was no inner commentary. And it would be kind of, well, I'm curious as if you have anything that you could add to what that is.
You know, Cindy, I trust this silence. You know, it's interesting to come on something like Facebook Live and share a moment of silence together, because there's so much noise on social media. There's so much noise on the internet. There's so much noise in our society, culture. I love the Quakers talk about the still small voice within. We tend to not even be able to hear the still small voice within because there's simply so much noise. So I trust your quiet, your openness, your still listening and still speaking. It's different to speak from silence versus speaking from noise, isn't it?
Yeah. There is a physical response right now to our sharing and our connection. I could feel it, and not just because the hair is still standing, which is a fascinating thing to me. It's as if the body knows something is happening, and the hair literally is standing up on my arms. I don't
And
need
I
to
have to chuckle
understand
because my hair is matching you.
it. Except that
No,
those who are watching will say, well, there's the wind. I just I recognize that, well, it feels like the experience of the world is shifting just in our joining, and will continue to shift, and perhaps through our work together and through your work and through all the people that come to join you this weekend in all your retreats and saying yes to what you're providing in your teachings and your meditation practice in this in the high schools, man. That this sense of serving love and embodying truth just oozes out into this world that appears to have so much lack of that. Yeah.
Mhm.
So, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah, I appreciate the service you're providing by playing the role you're playing.
Whatever that
As
means.
you know, the subtitle of my book is Realizing Freedom Together. This piece around togetherness is important in this time.
Well, I indicated we would be 15 to 30 minutes. We're right around 25 minutes, which is extraordinary. Says a lot about the illusion of linear time, because I would have told you that we were talking for 5 minutes until I looked at the little clock at the bottom of this computer. So is there anything more you want to speak into this space?
Just maybe ending by inviting anyone watching right now to pause for just a moment to hear the still small voice within. Especially if you're just in the middle of your day here on Facebook. Again, there's not a lot inviting us to become more quiet, to touch stillness and silence. So just inviting others to touch that and to listen for that next call, whatever that next call might be. To listen for something that's beyond the conditioned mind, beyond the mind of right and wrong and good and bad and this and that. And I'll just say I'm grateful that people joined us. And Cindy, I'm grateful that you reached out to me. And I'm very much looking forward to the time I'll have with whoever joins me coming up here soon. I think my time with you all is Friday.
So exciting. I do not have the schedule in front of me, so I'm not going to pretend like I do. But this, everyone who registers will get a schedule for the whole weekend. And I am just thrilled and delighted, Caverly, that whatever it is that is this benevolent universe has brought this moment, this joining, this experience into my life and into the lives of all that have touched, that have spent this time with us. So thank you.
Thank you, Cindy, so much.
Yeah, so go ahead and click that button and register. We'll see you this weekend.
Thank you.